Fire Call, the fire safety show with Division Chief Jim Sideras.
Hi, my name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you're watching Fire Call. This is a show from Sioux Falls Fire Rescue all about what goes on behind the scenes of a fire department. Now, we're located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, heart of the Midwest. It gets cold here in the wintertime and hot like today in the summertime. We're going to talk about a whole lot of things today, but we've got to answer some of your questions. Now, when you email me a question and I answer it, I'm going to send you a t-shirt, your very own Sioux Falls Fire Rescue t-shirt. So let's get right to these questions because there are some pretty good questions this month. Actually, a lot of questions this month. First question is, this is from Jamie. Jamie lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And the question is, when the alarm goes off, about how long does it take to leave the firehouse? Hey, this is a pretty critical thing, Jamie. When that tone goes off, when the alarms go off, we want to be out as fast as possible. And we time that. We're just like a NASCAR pit crew. Everything from where the gear is kept to the way our buildings are designed to get us out as fast as we can. Our time, we try and get up and out within 1 minute. Now that's a 24-hour time, so if you're at home at bed at 2 in the morning and someone flips on your lights and gives you an address and tells you what the emergency is, we would expect you to be able to get fully dressed, down the truck, start the truck, and be rolling in 1 minute. And we time that, and that's what our goal is. And we keep pretty close to that. So, Jamie, I hope that one answers your question, and that'll give you something to think about when you're in the dead of winter, when you're trying to get up and get going. This question is kind of a neat question. It comes from Clinton. Clinton lives in, holy smokes, I don't even know how to say this, Havre de Grace, Maryland. And what Clinton wants to know is how many firefighters ride on each fire truck. Great question. Varies all over the country. What we do here in Sioux Falls is on our engine companies and our ladder trucks, we run 4 people on each truck. Now there's a reason for that. Every person on a fire apparatus has a job. So regardless if it's an EMS call or it's a fire call, we run 4 so that each person knows during the day what they do. On an EMS call, like on a cardiac arrest, we have one person running the defib, one person doing compressions, switching out with another person, another person doing airway. That's 4 people. On a fire, we have one person in command, one person running the truck, another person securing the hydrant, another person pulling that first pre-connect, that first line out, getting that fire ready. So that's why we run with 4. Your department might be different, but we're sure happy with 4, and we like it that way. This is kind of a different question. This one comes from, I don't know, we have something going on with people in Maryland. This one comes from Michael. He lives in Silver Springs, Maryland. Michael collects fire department patches. One of the nicest in the nation right here, Mike. Wants to know how we can get one. Well, we used to trade patches on a regular basis, and people all over the country would trade patches. But since 9/11, things have really changed, and most departments now are really kind of clamping down and giving out their patches, simply because when your department gets to be about 200 people, sometimes you don't recognize everybody. So someone could put on your department patch and show up at a fire scene, show up at a station, and you really want to know who they are. So we don't give out patches, Mike, but better than a patch, you get a t-shirt. And our last question for, and this is going to kind of kick off into part of the show. This one comes from Jack. Jack lives in Sioux Falls, wants to know what the difference is between a hazardous material call and a normal fire call. Well, Jack, a couple things we think about when we go on a hazardous materials call. That can be anything from a liquid vapor spill to a gasoline spill to some type of pesticide, is we keep 3 things in our mind. We want to stay uphill because a product won't, if it's a liquid, won't go uphill. We want to keep the wind at our back so that that vapor is not going to be blowing across us and hurting us. And we also want to be thinking of wind at our back, uphill, and we also want to be thinking about what the product is and identifying it. Does it float? Does it sink? And that's going to lead us into one of our calls that we just had dealing with hazardous materials. Well, one of our questions is, because we're surrounded by water, is what happens when we get a spill in the river or any waterway? And we have one going on right now. What happens is we need to determine a couple of things. One thing is, does the product, the contaminant, float or sink? In this case, what we have is we have a petroleum product that's in the river, floating downriver, and we need to pick it up to prevent it from contaminating more of the river. So what we do is we determine how far ahead of it can we get, and we're ahead of this spill right now. And then what we'll do is we'll put a boom across. These are called booms, and they're an absorbent material. And all this is it's just it's like a big sock filled up with absorbent material, and we'll stretch this across the river or any waterway. As the product comes in contact with the boom, it's absorbed. It's specially designed to pick up petroleum products, and then we can safely clean this river up. And that's our first start, is to keep the spread of product from flowing downriver and causing further damage. So that's how we start this whole product, or the process of picking up a contaminated waterway with a fuel spill. I'm Scott Schultz, and what we're going to talk about is how we get lines across the river. And when we look at getting lines across the river, it's a simple thing. What we use is a line gun. These line guns came back from shooting lines across ships in the ocean to get lines all the way across. You shoot a light line, and then you can pull a heavier line across. It uses a round that will shoot a projectile, which is our projectile, and it will fire all the way across. There's different loads, and how far can we shoot? Do you remember?
I believe you can shoot up to 200 yards.
You bet. 200, and then with progressive loads, we can go quite a distance on this. So are you all ready to go, Scott?
Sure.
Okay. As he loads this, we want to make sure that everyone's safe across the other side. He loads it, and inside that cartridge is a long line, a lightweight line that will shoot out, and as that goes across, then we can pull a heavier line with it. So we're always trying to be safe. We want to make sure that there's no one downrange, because it's going to shoot that brass projectile all the way across. And that's all there is to it. Fires a line across, and depending on how far your line is, or how far your distance is, how much the line will go off. This is where the line comes out of. So as he fires this, projectile goes off, pulls this line out, and then depending on how big of a load he has, it will depend on how far out that projectile goes, and it keeps pulling this line out. The line can be cut, as they're doing now, and attached to a larger line, and then they can progressively pull heavier lines across. Okay, we're at a big fire here. What we have is, we have a fire that was in one house, blew out the windows, blew out across the porch, rolled up the front of that house, spread really quick. A lot of heat, a lot of fire. They ended up spreading to the apartment next door. So what we had is, we had fire in one house, spread to this apartment complex next door, giving us a lot more problems, making this a lot more of a complex of a fire. We've talked about incident command system. Well, here we have to send up two separate fires. We have the crew on this 501 fire and the crew on the 519. We use the addresses to break down these fires. So we have two commanders for each of these. We have one incident commander overseeing the entire incident, and then we broke it down into two fires. Makes it more complex because each crew has to know who they're listening to, who they follow in that chain of command. What we've done is, if you look up on top of this apartment complex, we punched a hole up in that roof. And the reason we punched a hole was, and you can see all that smoke coming out, it causes the heat, causes all that smoke to be pulled up out that hole rather than spread through the house. So it looks like it's doing some damage, but what it's really doing is it's preventing more damage from occurring by containing that fire. Big things we have to worry about here. This is a hot day out here, about 90 some degrees, high humidity. We really have to worry about safety of our firefighters fighting this fire so that we don't have heat stroke, heat exhaustion. So what we've done is we've set up rehab stations for our firefighters so we can rotate them in and out of this rehab to make sure that they stay safe, healthy, hydrated, so that we can keep fighting this fire and we can fight both these fires. What we have also in the other building, you can kind of catch glimpses of them, is they're inside of that looking for any extension, any further spread of that fire. So they'll be tearing off walls, tearing out anything that we need for spread, and they're upstairs on that second floor right now. Another thing we can talk about is you can see all these different hose lines spread throughout this whole fire. And the thing we have to think about is we have to supply a lot of water to fight these fires. So these big 5-inch supply lines that go to the hydrant, just like bringing the fire hydrant right to our truck. Stretch those out, and then we have our different lines depending on what they're used for. We have 1 3/4 lines that are going inside, used for attack lines. We have 2.5-inch lines that are used to prevent exposure, and they're all marked so everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be at. A lot of times what we'll use when we get tough fires is we can use foam, and this foam is nothing more than looks like detergent, like bubble bath. It's not quite, but what it does is it has that same consistency, and it will do is it decreases the surface tension of water, lets that water penetrate faster. So if you have some tough fires to fight, like this one, it looks like they shot a little foam in there, and it will help to get a quicker knockdown on those fires. It's not like in the old days where they had the TV where you see 5 feet of foam. It's just a real light foam, penetrates really fast. A lot of times they'll use that for any time of fires where you want to get in, get some fast penetration. Now we got a lot of crews here. We got probably 9 trucks here, 9 different crews, individual crews, and we got a bunch of Proby firefighters. They're out at the training center. First big fire. They're trying to look like they've been around the block a few times. They're trying to look pretty tough here, but this is their first fire. First fire outside the training center. And if you look real close, you'll probably even see them shaking just a little bit. What we're going to do is we brought them in just to let them see what can happen in a fire, how fast things can spread. Now, and we could probably talk to one of them. Okay, here's your big claim to fame. First fire outside the training center?
That's correct.
What do you think so far? Now remember, career dissipation light here.
I think it looks great. I mean, it's fun to be out here and see how the Sioux Falls Fire actually operates, and you've got all this excitement and everything, and I am a little nervous, and I know they probably won't send me in there to do anything real important, but I really enjoy this. And
what'd you do before you came here?
I was a hog farmer.
All right, yeah. Okay, so you ready to go?
Oh yeah.
And we also have Randy Wold here. Now Randy Wold, fairly new firefighter. He just looks like an old firefighter. But what you were out training, Randy. What do you got these guys going to do? What's your plan for them?
We're in staging right now until we get an assignment, and then we'll see what we have to do there. Right now we're just kind of discussing some of the things that do happen at a structure fire, so when they do get on the floor, they're aware of what's going on.
That's good to know. It's not uncommon you get a guy with a lot of experience, not a lot of experience in a fire. Instead of crawling like we talked about before in fire call, standing around, fall through a floor. So this is really serious business. It's not widgets at Wally World. It's life and death here. And any time these guys get involved in a fire, anything could happen. Could be a real simple fire. Could be something dangerous. You get a floor cave in, falls out from underneath them, ceilings fall down. So it's always teaching our firefighters how to stay alive in these fires. On a previous Truck of the Month, we looked at the ALV. The ALV is our air light vent truck, and it fills up all the tanks that these firefighters use. Firefighters are going to go through a tank. These tanks, probably 20, 30 minutes, are going to burn right through them. They have to be refilled. So we have a couple of our firefighters actually going through the process at this fire, filling up tanks. Now, it doesn't take very long to do. But what they'll do is they'll turn on this onboard compressor, then they'll route the air, which is all clean and tested air, into these bottles called our SCBA bottles for self-contained breathing apparatus. In these bottles, they look like they're made out of aluminum and steel, but they're actually spun bottles. Makes them a lot lighter, a lot stronger. Now tell us, how many have you filled so far?
About 6 to 8.
Okay. How long does it take to fill the bottles?
If you go right pace, by about 4 or 5 minutes.
Now this is your first big fire, right?
It is.
Okay, so what? And you got stuck here?
Oh, I'm not stuck here. We're filling bottles.
Every job in a fire ground is important. Sometimes some just don't seem like they're as much fun. So that's the ALV. Now, if this was a night operation, we'd be popping up that big light tower. If it was a mass casualty, we'd be using all of our mass casualty equipment. In this case, we need air. We're filling up bottles. Okay, at any time we have a big fire, we have to worry about the safety of our firefighters. And we call rehab, where an area where we set in where firefighters can get their vital signs checked. They can drink plenty of water. Keep drinking, Chuck. You do a good job. Then cool down, and then what happens is we can monitor them and ensure that they're safe, they're ready to go back and fight a fire, because this takes out you get these fires going, and it takes out a lot of energy. You get dehydrated very easily because you got all your gear on. Now we have a lot of organizations that even come in. The Red Cross comes in and helps us. They'll come in with water and all kinds of snacks. And how many fires have you been to?
This is my first.
Oh, gee, everybody's first fire. And did you bring the water or just the snacks?
I brought the snacks. There is water available. We have a station down here and one up on the other side of the fire.
And the Red Cross is great. They show up all the time, day or night. We call them. They show up and has everything we need for our firefighters. This is great not only on a hot summer day, but we have to think, being in South Dakota, when it's 30 below at night, Red Cross is there with cocoa, chicken broth, and all kinds of other goodies to help our firefighters stay warm too. So that's the whole part of this operation, is just rehab. Now, part of this operation is rehab, and this is Captain Arlie Groen. Now, Arlie Groen's been a captain for darn near forever, been on all the big fires, and now he's in rehab. Now, tell us, Arlie, I know you weren't the first crew on scene, but what did you do in the fire in 519?
We were assigned attic division, and we made entry into the structure and put the fire out in the attic.
Now, when you were doing that, now it's kind of breezy right now, but when it's a hot day, really humid, what's it like being a firefighter and all your gear? And the people at home are saying, oh, gal, I just go to work in my office. What's it like being a firefighter in one of these hot, steamy attics when you're up there?
It's kind of like crawling into your oven at 500-600 degrees.
And then just kind of hanging out there and playing around?
Yeah, you're in there for approximately 20 minutes to a half an hour till your air tank runs out, and then when you leave, you're hot and you're tired and you're pretty much spent.
Because really, that's all we can expect from our expectancy is only about that 20 minutes, and you've used almost all your energy in that quick blast to try and save this house. How was the visibility up in that attic?
It was almost zero. They did get the hole cut in the attic. We did force some air through the stairwell and into the attic, and then after we hit the fire and got it knocked down pretty well, it cleared out.
Great. Well, thanks, Arlie. And that's what it's like to be inside of a hot attic with Captain Groen. One of the neat things we have at Sioux Falls Fire Rescue is we have a whole group of chaplains that works with the fire department. We have them on pagers, they show up to fires, and they offer a neat insight into the other side of firefighting, that's the human side. So, Chaplain Dave, now you just got here. What do you do at these kind of fires?
Well, we look for people that might not have a pastor, who are having some problems and maybe just don't know what to do. Like the gal involved in this fire wanted to go back and get her telephone and get her insulin out of the house, and she thought that she couldn't make it without it and wanted to call her landlord. So we were there for her, and her pastor showed up and his wife. So we try to get in contact with the pastor of these people, and if they don't have a pastor, try to be there with them and pray with them and just assure them that everything's going to be okay, so that the firefighters don't have to get sidetracked by the human problems that we have.
Now, Now we've had chaplains at major accidents before. I know we had a triple quad fatality. We had chaplains there, and you just look at even for the firefighters if they need help too.
Right. We're available to the firefighters. There's 4 chaplains in all, and we take turns. We're on call, and we have different days that we're assigned. We visit the different fire stations, and if some of the firefighters have problems, spiritual problems or family problems, and want to talk to us and don't have a pastor, that's why we're available.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Chaplain Dave. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So when we look at our firefighters, it's not just brains and brawn. We have to look at the person too and cater to all their needs, and that's the way a good fire department operates. Wow, that was kind of cool stuff, and that's what we're doing every day here. We're always staying busy, and that's the neat thing about being a firefighter is you never know what you're going to be doing or what's going to happen next. You always got to stay on your toes. We got a couple more questions, and then we're going to have a shout-out. And this question comes from Jessica. Jessica lives in Sioux Falls, and Jessica has quite a few questions here. Jessica, thank you very much. I'm just going to answer one of them. How does a firefighter become a captain? There's only a couple ways to do it, and you got to rise up through the ranks. Our firefighters, we look at start looking at our career path as a firefighter. They have to become a driver. It takes 3 years. They can test for a driver. And when they have 8 years on the department, they can test to become a captain. Our captains, and you've met some of them. Captain Arlie Groen, we met today. Captain Craig Hanna out of the training center. Jeff Winters. We talked to Captain Jerry Black. These are some of the best captains we have. They're the ones that aren't going to let you down, and when things get hot, when things get dark, you want them by your side, and they're going to keep you alive and get you out of wherever you're at. So it takes 8 years, got to be a driver, and then you go through an assessment center. We test all their skills. How do they handle command situations? How do they handle daily activities? And we measure it. So only the best get up there and become captain. So Jessica, I hope that answers your question. We have another one. This one is, have 2 people wrote this question down, and just because they're not from Sioux Falls, I'm going to answer both of them, but they want to know how old you have to be a firefighter. So this is from Emily in Mentor, Ohio, and Blaze, good name for a firefighter, from Mitchell, Indiana. How old do you have to be? Before you can test, you have to be 21. This doesn't mean you're 20 and then you turn 21. When you sign up, you got to be 21. So be thinking about that and get a little bit of education. Start working out now if you're under 21 because we want some pretty fit firefighters. And then last but not least, we have a shout-out. So we're going to have a shout-out for firefighters that are from other parts of the country. This one goes to Chris McKee and the firefighters of Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base in Ohio. Got your email? Glad you watched the show. Chris, watch your mailbox. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. We had a lot of fun. My name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you've been watching Fire Call.